Good afternoon, and welcome to Jeff and the Rabbi. Yep, one more Purim special here. We have one more Purim special.
We're going to make the most out of Purim. We don't turn loose.
Right.
We like squeezing this Purim for everything.
We got to do
worth.
it. We got to do it.
That's right.
So, question for you, Purim. When I look at the whole Purim saga, one guy I don't understand. I mean, I get the whole story, but there's one person I just can't explain, and I'm baffled, and that's Haman. I don't get poor Haman here. I don't understand this guy here. He's right up rubbing shoulders with the guy, now the king of the world, pretty much. You know, the king conquers the Babylonians. He's the king of the world. Next thing you know, Haman's got the signet ring here. He's like the biggest man in the kingdom. Got it all.
Right.
Nothing could go wrong. I'm sure he's probably rich. He's got women. He's got everything you want. He's going to the parties. Probably has a front row seat. But one little guy bothers him here. One little Jewish guy bothers him.
Drives him crazy.
And throws it all away. Throws the whole thing away.
Absolutely.
And it just, what it reminds me of, where this gets to me, is James Bond. The whole thing reminds me of James Bond.
Really?
Take it this way. You got every cool James Bond villain out there. I'm talking back in the old days, not the new James Bond. I'm talking about Sean Connery, Roger Moore James Bond. You got the cool villains. You got the man with the golden gun. You got Dr. No, the cool guys. These guys had to be the richest men in the world. I'm talking about multi-billionaires.
Right.
They build these beautiful evil lairs. I always wanted an evil lair, by the way. I always wanted. But they're talking about they hollow out some volcano on an island, spend billions of dollars bringing in the best gadgets, rockets, and things like that. Then they have thousands of minions, not the minions you go to, different minions. No, they don't have those minions, but they have thousands of minions in there that all the tailor bill alone for those jumpsuits. They all have the same jumpsuit and the helmet. And think about it, like these, they probably Obamacare. You think that's going to cost for the minions, and if he happens to be a religious evil genius, I mean, then he still has to pay for contraceptions for all his minions.
Yeah, and not to mention all of his female companionship and everything.
Right, but the guy's got everything. He wants world domination.
Right.
World domination really is probably not what it's cracked up to be. I mean, the headaches you have, the pains, or the New Guinea people are all complaining, and then you got the guys over in China. I don't even want world domination. So this guy has it all, and the next thing you know how it's going to end. We know how every James Bond story ends. It blows up, the island blows up, he loses everything. Right. But he had everything.
But usually, like, you see it blowing up over the shoulder of James Bond as he speeds away in a speedboat, and in the background you see the whole thing.
A beautiful woman that he stole from them.
Right.
So you got the man with the golden guns, the Goldfingers, the Scalamangas, all these guys, and Haman. It's the same thing. What causes these guys to want more? There has to be something.
Right. Absolutely delusional, and it's a historical model. Haman is a classic historical model. Let's say you got, take our fellow Mr. Putin. I mean, today he takes the Tsar, and tomorrow the Sudeten. Today takes Crimea.
Confused.
Right, and I keep getting all shook up with that.
Right.
And then he takes the Ukraine. Now, you know what? Is he going to get away with Crimea? Absolutely.
Yep.
No doubt about it. Because, after the Great War, losing 1 million casualties, no one wants to, after, they keep slipping into, whatever.
Right.
But no one wants to fight with the guy. So they'll give him, listen, we'll give you a Crimea. Just be nice and stop there. You know what? He's not going to stop there. Why won't he stop there?
That's my question.
That's what, if he would just stop, he could get away with it.
And he'd be great. The Crimea's awesome. Beachfront property. Right. What else do you want?
He could probably even pick up a couple more countries and stop there, and they would even give him that.
Yeah.
They'll give him the Ukraine for sure if he wants, and maybe even a couple of things he could take back, like Yugoslavia or something. Right. They'll give it to him, right? But he's going to want more. Why do these guys do that? And really, the truth is, they live in a delusional world. Now, Haman himself says, by the way, let's just check it out here. Let's look this up here in the book, okay? It says right here in the scroll. Yeah, it says right here in the scroll. Let's see, there we go. Okay, there we go. So it says that Haman, he says he goes to his wife. He comes out of the party. He gets invited to the party by Esther, and he comes out of the party, and he says, Esther invited no one else in the entire kingdom except me and the king.
Wow.
And I've got all these children. Some say I have 208 sons. I've got all this wealth. He was fantastically wealthy. I got everything. And you know what? he says these words, "It's all not worth it to me, because that guy won't bow down."
Wow.
All not worth it.
The wealth, the everything.
Everything. He said, let it go. One guy.
One guy.
One guy, you know. The problem is people get so hung up on what they have to have. I'll tell you a story.
All right.
I had a friend, he lives here in Atlanta. His name is Bob, okay? And Bob is a publicist, which means he works with people when the guys publish books and stuff like that. He goes on the book tours with them, takes them around, makes sure he gets them their sparkling water and holds the door open, put in the car and drives them from place to place and all that. Okay, Bob Hope came to town because he wrote a book. Right. And this guy's taking him around from book signings and event to event, okay? He's walking down the street with Bob Hope, and someone hollers out, just like some passerby says, "Hey, Bob." So this guy's name is Bob, turns around, he says, "Hi." Huh. And Bob Hope goes, "No, they were talking about me." Right. Now here's Bob Hope.
You're losing your hat.
Yeah, I'm going to flipped out on that. Bob Hope is uptight because some anonymous passerby that this guy would think that someone actually was talking to him and not him. Like, I mean, you know, Bob Hope's not wealthy. He's not famous.
Bob Hope's got everything he needs.
He's got pretty much everything, and he's still uptight because that one person, some anonymous person, then this guy thought he was talking to him. Can you imagine that?
That's hard.
So this what happens is these people live inside a little delusional world of their own. So I can illustrate this perfectly. Everyone's living in their own world. And Esther, she was pretty wise. She was pretty savvy to this whole thing. Because here's the deal. Esther goes into the king. And Mordecai says to her, "Esther, we Jews are in trouble. What are we going to do? You got to go talk to the king." She said, "You can't talk to the king because you haven't been invited. If you're not invited, you go in uninvited, you get killed."
Right.
He says, "You got to do something anyway." So she says, "Okay, I'm going in." She goes in, and the king happily does not kill her.
Right.
He's real happy. He says, "Esther, lovely to see you. What can I do for you?" Now, what do you suppose Esther would say when she says, "What can I do for you?"
Well, if it wasn't Esther, she'd say a lot. I mean, give me everything in the world, but she just wants a party.
Well, didn't she have something else that she was going in there to ask for?
I would think so.
I mean, how about like, "Okay, king, you know they're going to kill the Jews. I'd like you to let the Jews off." But instead she says, "I'd like to invite you to a party." I mean, give me a break. What does she invite him to a party for? Ask. And she says, "I want you to invite you to a party with Haman." They get to the party, by the way, with Haman, and he says, "Okay, well, what can I do for you?" "Oh, I'd like to invite you to another party with Haman." What's going on? Esther was smart. Esther knew, if I go and ask the king, he might very well say, "Well, I can't spare the Jews because, you know, I've been paid like 10,000 silver pieces. I'm going to kill the Jews." Right? He might say to her, "Esther, you know what? Maybe don't bother your pretty little head about this. That's matters of state. You know, you go back to the palace and cook us up some hamantaschen or something." You know, like. But, so Esther's got an idea. She says, "What I got to do is, I have got to create a split between Haman and Achashverosh." So she says, "What I'm going to do is, I'm going to plant a little seed in Achashverosh's mind that Haman is out to get me or to get him. I got to split the two." So she invites them both to the party. Now, they both come to the first party, and they go home from that first party. Achashverosh is awake all night. You know why he's awake all night? He said, like, "What was Haman doing at that party?" My wife invites. He's bothered by that. What does Haman walk out of there now? You know, if a guy comes home and he finds another guy in the house, even if it's totally innocent, that other guy's got to be thinking like, "Uh-oh, he's thinking that I'm like,"
I know.
You know, you got to at least think that, and you got like, "I want you to know, guy, that I got nothing with your wife. I'm totally cool." You know, you might take pains to show that like you're nothing going on with your wife.
Right.
Haman walks out of there and he's thinking like, "Oh wow, this is really great. Like I'm obviously the most important guy around. Everyone realizes I'm so important." He totally misses it.
He misses the whole cue.
He misses the whole cue. Now Achashverosh picks up on it because he's uptight about it. But Haman totally misses it. Why? Because he thinks he's so important. Then he goes in that night. He decides, "I got to kill Mordecai because Mordecai won't bow down to me." He goes in to Achashverosh. He walks into Achashverosh, and Achashverosh says, what would you do for someone that the king wants to reward? He says, he must be talking about me.
Right.
Like, who else in the world could he be? He's so delusional. He's inside his own little world that he must be talking about me. He says, well, I think you should take the king's clothes and the king's horse and the king's and put them on him. Now, in the meantime, Achashverosh is thinking, like, is something going on with this Haman? This only confirms all of his thoughts, even more so. So he is, again, totally delusional. He's living inside his own world. And because he lives inside his own world, and he's decided, this is where I'd say Mr. Putin comes in. Mr. Putin has accurately decided that no one is going to do anything. And I think he's very correct. No one is going to do anything.
Yeah.
However, what's going to happen is, because like all people delusional like himself, he's going to keep playing his cards until he will force everyone, kicking and screaming, but he'll force them to do something.
Right.
They will have to, because everyone's going to realize, look, we can't deal with him anymore. They'll try to like throw him as many bones as they can, but when they don't have any more bones to throw, they're going to have to deal with him. Of course, at that point, it's going to be a bloody mess, because the problem that could have been taken care of real easily now, well, it's going to cost 10 times as much later on.
That's never happened in history.
But that's of course, that's where we're going. Right. But why is he? He's going to keep playing those cards and playing those cards. Why? Because he is delusional also. Because, what's he thinking? He is still ticked off. He is ticked off because in his memoir, he writes, he remembers the day of the fall of communism in Berlin. He was Berlin bureau chief for the KGB.
Right.
And he remembers how embarrassing it was to have to burn all the documents and all that stuff, right? Kind of like some other guy that remembers the day that they had to surrender at Versailles.
Right.
And it's like
in the same railroad car that you bring out later.
Right. He's just so ticked off. Just so embarrassed. He says, I'm going to straighten this out. This guy's also ticked off. Now, they're going to keep trying to placate him. He won't be placated, of course. Why? Because he's delusional. Because everything that happens, he sees as more evidence that I'm right, and he's just going to keep playing those cards. Ultimately, they'll stop him, and ultimately that will be his downfall. Because, Mr. Putin is not strong enough to conquer the world, but he'll at some point think that he is and go for it, and it's going to be a big mess. Same thing Haman here. And I'll give you another proof. Achashverosh has decided, because Esther planted that seed, that Haman's after her. Right? Now, when she exposes him, Haman, and she says, someone's trying to kill me. And Achashverosh says, who is it? And he says, it's Haman. Achashverosh says, oh my gosh. Now he walks out into the garden to try to figure this out. And he comes back in and he goes, he finds Haman is tripped onto the bed and he's laying on top of Esther. He says, oh, you're trying to take Esther. Now, Esther just said he's trying to kill me.
Right. That's true.
Like, how could he think that he's after Esther if Esther thinks he's trying to kill her? But you know why? Because once he got in his mind that he's after Esther, he can look right at the facts and ignore them.
Right.
You can ignore the facts. You're inside your own little mind. Once he's decided Haman's after Esther, all the facts will fit in to determine that Haman's after Esther. And once Haman has decided that he's the most important guy in the whole world, and no one's greater than him, and no one likes him, and it's all about him and his ego, then all the facts are going to substantiate that. That's what happens. It's a great lesson, by the way, to you and me. We might not be Hamans or Putins or world leaders.
I thought of world domination.
Yeah, right. And they said, why do all these guys want world domination? Because the guy gets this idea, which anyone would have disabused him of, say, I'm gonna dominate the world someday. And they say, you're an idiot. So, he'll just sit there in his own little back bedroom, dreaming that he's going to dominate the world, but he'll never do anything about it. But if he gets away with it, and then gets away with a little more, and a little bit more, then he thinks like, hey, I can do anything. And especially if he's just some schmo that tries to do a coup from a beer hall, and they throw him in jail, and then he finds himself a year or two later, he's the prime minister. He says like, hey,
worked out pretty well.
Worked out well. I think I'm going to play this card. It seems to keep going. I just keep playing. And Haman, he's just finding phenomenal success. You know where Haman started? He was a barber.
I didn't know that.
Barber.
Haman was a barber.
Haman was a barber in one of these remote provinces.
Does it say that somewhere in here?
Yeah, it's in the Medrash.
Oh,
Medrash says Haman was a barber in some remote province.
Wow.
Right? And, so barber, paper hanger. Yeah, right. It's all the same, right? Yeah. But things start to work out. And this guy, when you're just a barber and you're thinking like, I'm smarter than everybody. And then things start to play out. And you really start saying, hey,
I am smarter than everybody.
I am smarter than everybody. This is going my way. And then after a while, it's like, it's so uncanny that you say like, hey, I must be blessed with some kind of like divine power or something.
So you think it's almost their ego takes over and then makes them delusional.
Totally delusional, and he does not see the facts. If he would look around, he would see that actually when she invited him to the party, this is a bad
He should
move.
have thought that's not a good thing. There's something wrong here.
It's a bad move, right? Like, your wife tells you like we're going away on vacation to like a remote place, just you and me, and my friend, and my hairstylist.
Yeah, it's probably not a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, come on, so anyone would have thought that this is more dangerous than it is flattering. But no, he thought it was great, and everything's great, and ultimately he's hung. And that's what happens to the wicked people. They become totally delusional, and they only see what they want to see.
Because, and again, you look through history, obviously it happens all the time. There are lots of Hamans in the world.
And, the pity is all the other people are looking at the guy, and they're saying, like, they're looking at the reality. They're saying, the guy's a barber.
Really?
Like, he can't dominate the world. So no one pays him much attention, and no one really gets in his face because, like, it's almost like embarrassing. Are you going to get in some barber's face and tell him, like, hey, man, you're not going to dominate the world, right? But it's almost like embarrassing to have to say that, so no one bothers to say it.
A lot of the generals in Germany said, this is a corporal. This guy was a corporal. Before that, he was a pauper, and he's a corporal, and he's going to be...
I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to tell him about tactics. And
don't worry about that.
Right.
It didn't work out.
Before you know it, though, the guy is so carried away and everyone has just been so busy, like, ignoring him, that while they're ignoring him, he's just gobbling up more and more.
Wow. Interesting. So there are similarities. Putin, I don't know how it's going to end for Putin. Now, there are some world leaders that smartened up and said this is enough. Not many. I think an example, in the times that right before World War II, you got Francisco Franco. He goes in there to Spain. He takes Spain, and Mussolini comes in, and Hitler comes in, and they help him out, and they take it. And he becomes the pretty much the ruler of Spain. Then Hitler starts his war. Mussolini comes running to help. I want world power too. And Franco said, no, I'm going to back up. I'm taking Spain. He lived a ripe old age, while Mussolini's hanging from his feet at the end there, and Hitler shoots himself in the bunker.
Right.
Franco lived a ripe old age.
Right. He played it to his own advantage.
That's all I need, though. I don't need any more.
But I do think that these delusional folks, especially the guy that comes from nowhere, he loses track of the fact that he came from nowhere. Matter of fact, he's maybe even embarrassed about nowhere. He says, really, like the whole world doesn't recognize my greatness. They have to recognize my greatness. This is what Haman says. It says, Haman told his wife and all of his followers, he said when he came home from the party, he gathered everyone together and he told his family how great he was and how many children he had. You know who he told it to? His children.
That's true.
He's telling his children how many children he has.
Right.
He's telling his wife how great he is. Like when you got to gather the family together and tell them how great you are, it's pretty sad.
I do that nightly. No one listens.
That is pretty sad. He gathers them all together and he tells them how great he is.
His wife kind of knew something wasn't going right there, though.
Right. And by the way, she told him, she says, listen, I see you got a problem with Mordecai. Go in tomorrow morning and ask the king for permission to hang Mordecai. You know when he goes? Right there that night. Middle of the night. He goes running off because he's totally obsessed. He can't even wait till the morning. He can't even go to bed. Like, what is he going to do? Go to the king's room and, like, knock on the door in the middle of the night? I got to wake you up. I need to kill Mordecai. But when you're totally obsessed, you think that everything is... And then he gets there, and the king's even awake. The king's awake. He says, who's on the court? And they call him in. He says, oh, this is great. You see? The king's looking for someone to honor. Oh, it must be me. See, everything just works my way.
Right.
Every move I make is just going my way.
Wow.
And that's what God does. He brings them along. Yeah, I'll give you a little bit more. You want some more? Here, I'll reel it out. Yeah, take as much as you want. And then all of a sudden...
So when we look out into the world, whether we're looking at world leaders like Putin or maybe even some Hollywood stars or things like that, everything's going great. Maybe sometimes they're just getting reeled out there as well to see where it's going to end up.
All this success is just reeling them out further and further.
Poor Justin Bieber. Is that we're not talking about?
Right.
Think about it, but it is true. It gets to the point where it's all me. It's all about me, and then you get a little delusional in your world there.
Right. The thing is, though, that along the way, like Haman could have been pretty ugly. It got very close to being very ugly. And if it wasn't for the fact that God stepped in and flipped it around, like at the last second, it would have been very ugly. But that is the story. And that's the story for us. There's a story within a story. The big story is it can turn around on a dime. The little story is try not to be Haman. We all kind of delusional.
Yeah.
Like I know, you walk around and, you think that, like, you got this great head of hair on there. And,
absolutely.
Everyone's thinking it looks really good.
The women have got to be seeing this show right now and saying.
Thinking everyone's just, like, dying over that.
Come on. Yeah.
So, I mean, I kind of think it's, like, my job to, like, tell you, like, Jeff, it doesn't cut it.
I'm not buying that.
Stop right here.
I'm sorry, I'm not buying that.
Stop right now, Jeff. I mean, listen, some guys, if you want to, maybe like you get some kind of like, if you happen to be endowed with naturally beautiful hair like mine, it's one thing. But when you got that kind of hair, like, it's not going to go.
I'm not buying it. Sorry, Rabbi Freeman, I'm not buying it.
It's not going, Jeff.
I see how
Stop right here.
Look, they look at me and everybody smiles when they see me and they laugh. They must be thinking I'm great. They're laughing. They're thinking they're so happy when they see me.
And Jeff, this dressing down style is not going to get you anywhere. You need a nice tie. You need to put on a nice suit. Dress for success. Get a top hat. Dress for success. At least one of us
is delusional here. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm telling you, I was just right now in the men's room, and they walked into the room. As a matter of fact, I said to the lady, I walked into the office and I said, like, where's the bathroom? And she said, well, go down the hall. You'll see a sign that says gentlemen, but don't let that dissuade you.
Good.
So anyway, I pulled into and the guy's walking. He says, "Oh, you look really good." Right? I can see everyone say I'm looking good.
That's true. Yeah, I did notice they were laughing at you too. So
everyone, they were smiling. It made them feel good because of how good I looked. That's what brought a smile to their face.
Okay, true.
That's no, we're not delusional here. I mean, when a guy looks good, he looks good. That's all there is to it.
I know I'm not delusional.
Yeah.
I mean, good looking. Delusional? No, absolutely not.
Nothing. Listen, Jeff. Really, nothing that a comb won't help.
I don't own a comb.
Just a comb. 65 cents, and you got it. You could be on the road to success. Just nothing standing between you and success, but 65 cents, a little piece of plastic.
That's what it is. Yeah,
That's the way to go.
All I know is when I look in the mirror, this looks good. That's all I'm going to say. At least one of us is thinking.
Someone's got to tell you the truth, but it's the truth. It's right here.
Right there.
It's all here in the. It's all here in the scroll, in the letter, in the letter. This is called the letter that they wrote, and it's all here in the scroll. You can read about Haman. You can read about Achashverosh. You can read about delusions of grandeur, and just when you read it, say to yourself, "I don't want that to happen to me."
So pretty much, it's. Don't always look at the power hungry, the delusional, the people at the top and think, okay, they've got it made, it's all going to work out well for them. Because sometimes it's not going to work out well for them.
And do you know who's the hero of the story? The hero of the story is Mordecai. Mordecai goes out there. Mordecai's not looking for any power.
No.
And guess who ends up with all the power?
Mordecai.
Haman wants all the power, and he just wants only one person not to have power. Mordecai. What happens? Haman's hung. Mordecai gets all the power. Where's Haman hung? On the tree that he put up on the gallows that he put up to hang Mordecai. He wants all the power. Achashverosh wants to stop the Jews from going back to Israel. He's celebrating that. In the end, he dies. Esther's son, Darius II, takes over. He lets all the Jews go back to Israel. Everything works out. Haman wants to kill all the Jews? Who becomes the most powerful people in the country? The Jews. Says even the non-Jews, by the end of the story, were converting to become Jewish.
Wow.
Turnabout 100% totally. You want to go about your business, do good, don't get delusional, and greatness comes your way. Go after the greatness, get delusional, you end up hanging from the gallows.
I'm going home and getting a haircut.
All right.
I'm by Haman. Then I'm getting a haircut.
We accomplished something.
That's it. Well, that's good. Listen, so things are seldom what they seem.
That's right.
Got to watch out. All right. Is this it? We're done with Purim now?
I think we're finally, I hate to let it go, but I think we're done.
Done with Purim. All right, next week, a non-Purim topic.
That's right.
See you then.